Hi, everyone. Welcome to NurseDeck, a brand spanking new online community by nurses for nurses. I'm Jeannie Moore, your host, and today we're talking to Dr. Shannon Harrington from Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I love Virginia Beach. I haven't been there for years, but I almost moved there one time, a long time ago. So please, welcome to NurseDeck. And Shannon, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started on your nursing journey? I see that you wrote a book too. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit, get us started.
Yes, Jeannie, thank you so much for the invitation. I was super excited to be invited to this platform to share a little bit about my story and to hopefully inspire and motivate someone and continue to support the awesome work that you guys are doing here at NurseDeck. So I am Dr. Shannon Harrington. When did I start nursing? When you said that, what goes back to my first memory of nursing is I was 5 years old, and I was that kid that was on the playground that if anybody fell and had a boo-boo, I was over there bringing all the kids that had boo-boos home. And my mom was like, you cannot fix everybody. You cannot put peroxide, some therapeutic communication, and a Band-Aid fixed everything. Doesn't it? So I was that kid. But I officially graduated nursing school. I got my bachelor's in nursing. So I went from high school to straight into a bachelor's program, and I graduated in 2002. So I cannot believe that I will have been a nurse for 20 years next year. But I have all of my degrees, my bachelor's, my master's, my PhD, my postdoc, all of those things are in nursing, and I've had a wild ride. I say I've been a CNA, from CNA to dean and everything in between. And now I am an author, as you spoke of my book, and I am a nurse entrepreneur. So I'm excited about all of the different doors that nursing has opened for me. And I have 3 books. One of them I just got going, made available to the world last weekend. It's all about self-care because I'm on this big old self-care kick. Self-care,
Right.
But it's called Self-Care Secrets for Superwoman. But my first book that you were talking about is Try Again, and it's a 21-day devotional. And Try stands for Transform and Renew Yourself. It is a reflection, and it is based off of one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible, Romans 12:1 and 2, about being transformed by the renewing of your mind. Mm-hmm. And my other baby book is my journey from CNA to PhD, and that's the name of the book, From CNA to PhD. And I use the 6 steps in the nursing process to talk about my journey in a very real and relatable way to explain how I grew both professionally and personally.
Right. It is just absolutely fascinating to me because one of the greatest gifts of being a nurse is the world that it exposes you to.
Oh my God.
And you kind of, if you just get that foundation down, and then you're exposed a little bit here and exposed a little bit here, and you get to find out where's your passion, and you kind of just keep following that passion.
Absolutely.
And I personally believe that nursing is a calling.
Yes.
I talk a lot to physicians and nurses and everyone else in between, and we don't go into nursing because we failed medical school.
That's good. Say that again. I need that. Give me that again.
Going into nursing is like this, is like the first cognitive step you take. Do I want to be a physician? And I look at their world. Do I want to be a nurse?
Oh my God.
Well, I want to have a lot of knowledge around science, but I gotta be with that patient. I've got to be that person with that patient during their time.
That's good. And I say that because, and if I can share a story, when you said that, I was that kid on the playground nursing everybody, but my dad wanted me, my late father, love him. He wanted me to be a doctor. And his baby was supposed to be a doctor. I became a doctor, but not the doctor.
Right.
He wanted to be a doctor. MD, but daddy, I'm Dr. PhD. But I remember, you remember back in the day, I don't know if they still do this anymore, but when you were allowed to do the bring your children to work day, bring your daughter, whatever, pre-Rona,
Mhm.
pre-COVID and all that, but you could take your kids one day a year, go somewhere. And since my dad wanted me to be a doctor and we agreed that I would be something in healthcare, we landed on pediatrician since I was always taking care of the kids on the
Mhm.
playground. So
Mhm.
I did a shadow one day. One of my dad's friends was a pediatrician, and I went. And after I shadowed all day, my dad was so excited. He was sure that I was sold on being a pediatrician.
Mhm.
And we got in the car and we were talking, and I was about 8 or something. And he was like, so how was your day? What did you learn? Da, 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 da. I was like, Dad, who was the lady that was helping Dr.
Mhm.
such and such? And he was like, what do you mean the lady that was helping? I was like, it was a lady that at every visit, he would come in and talk for 5 seconds, hit somebody on the knee, say something funny and leave. But she was
Uh-huh.
the one who really, I liked her. What did she
Right.
do? He was like, it sounds like the nurse. I said, that's what I want to be. That's what I
Right.
want to be. At 8, I
At
know
8.
the difference between that therapeutic communication and that interaction,
Mhm.
just like you were talking about. That's where I saw myself. And my
Mhm.
dad is proud, rest his soul, that his baby became a doctor, but not in the way that he had planned.
Right. And I think that's okay. My dad wanted me to be an engineer
Huh.
because I live near a university that specializes in engineering and sciences, and so I took one class and came home and said, "Mm, not for me, Dad. Sorry, I'm gonna have to go down this other track because I need that person. I need to
Mhm.
be involved with that person." So I am absolutely ecstatic to ask you the very first question.
Okay.
And what are your thoughts on the leadership development opportunities for minorities in nursing?
Woo.
That's a loaded question, isn't it?
Yeah. And whenever
Yeah.
you have to take a deep breath before you respond, you know it's a loaded answer. I think that that is both internal and external. And
Mhm.
what I mean by internal is, and it's a personal journey and one that I have a lot of friends and colleagues who would agree that that internal journey of leadership development, sometimes we have that scholar imposter or leadership imposter syndrome. And a lot of times minorities don't have people that look like them or that they can relate to or that will take them under their wing to help them to get to that next level. And
Mhm.
if you don't have that passion, that drive, that belief, that awareness that you can internally, then that's an obstacle.
Mhm.
So that's one. And the external part of it for me, unfortunately, I've experienced it and I've had to coach many clients and mentees through the waters of that because I hate it that nurses eat their young, but
Mhm.
in some spaces, that's still very true. So
Mhm.
sometimes the lack of leadership development opportunities for minorities is related to cultural issues,
Mhm.
political issues, and personal challenges.
Mhm.
Everybody wants you to get, everybody doesn't want to be the wind beneath your wings and help you to grow and soar and get to everything that you possibly can. So I
Mhm.
think it's a blend of those internal and external factors.
Right. I think that I've been talking and listening to people talk about how nurses eat their young, and I have to go back through my own personal journey, and it was like, was I eaten? You know what I mean? Did they eat me? I don't know, but I'm so old, right? The sorry. Was like, did that happen in my day? You know, but I
For me,
think
eating, Jeannie.
right. I think it depends on in the environment, and you're using the term slipping my mind right now, the culture,
Culture.
but
Yes.
the environment that I was in, if I was in the ICU or in the surgical suite with an open heart and
Mhm.
was being stupid, people would yell at me to get out of the way.
I would
Or
eat.
as a student, I remember being in the surgical suite and I'm doing this about ready to pass out. And the scrub nurse came behind me and said, close your eyes, take a few
Mhm.
big deep breaths with
Mhm.
me. And she was trying
Mhm.
to prevent me from falling on the
See,
floor.
we have so much in common. Mhm.
So, about
Mhm.
eating the young, I think we need to prepare anyone who is entering this world
Mhm.
of healthcare, which is a very, very, very big world,
Mhm.
that start off by not taking things personally.
Absolutely.
You know, when you analyze the situation,
Mhm.
start asking yourself, was it the environment at
Mhm.
that very moment?
Mhm.
Was the nurse trying to save the patient and getting me out of the way?
Mhm.
And what can I do to, what did I learn? What did I
Mhm.
learn from this experience?
That's good.
Because and I'm then after that question, I asked, did I ever eat anybody? It's like, and you did
Mhm.
somewhere along the line,
Yeah.
but it's not something that I never meant to eat another nurse,
Mhm.
but did I
Sometimes
do
there's
the
good reason for
well,
eating them. If it saved a life, eat them,
eat
Jenny.
them. So I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Sometimes,
Yes.
you got to eat each other to keep each other going. But I learned. I mean, it's so I just love this world.
Mhm.
So the mental health, especially
Mhm.
September 2nd.
Ooh,
I had to look at the calendar really quick.
I know.
September 2nd in 2021,
Mhm.
there is so much going on
Mhm.
in the outside world, let alone the healthcare world.
Mhm.
And when you can walk out your door and go downtown, regardless of where you are, and you can
Mhm.
feel the anxiety off of the people around you,
Absolutely.
you can feel
Mhm.
that anxiety within them. Let's talk about mental health and nurses because we are our own worst enemies.
You know why? I know you
Why?
can agree to this. So we stood up there and we had on our little hats, depending on when you graduated. Don't date yourself. You had on your cute little white outfit, your cute little hat, and your cute little Florence Nightingale cup. And you promised to take care of the world. You were not
Mhm.
going to discriminate. It didn't matter whether they were black, orange, green, short,
Right?
fat, small. You were going to take care of them. But what we took 2 to 4 years of education to learn how to take care of everyone and to save everybody's life. But
Mhm.
nobody taught us to put the oxygen mask on ourselves
Right.
in order to do that. So we were taught patient care, but we were not taught self care.
Self-care. Well, we were warned. Back in my day, we
Warm,
we were warned.
strong term,
Uh,
Judy.
so
Warm.
this is in the 80s, and we were told 9 times out of 10 you're going to be an enabler
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to do this and you're going to do that, but no one
Mm-hmm.
taught me how to take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't pee, I don't get up, I don't
You
move.
don't eat. You don't drink
I
water.
grab the Snickers, I
Right?
grab the soda,
Keep it.
and I get up after 4 hours of sleep because I got something else to do.
Uh
And that is our and then you turn 60 and go,
huh.
"Whoa, what happened?"
There's been an expansion.
There has been some severe movement going on, if you know. Uh, anyway, so tell me about your try. Again, TRY. What does the TRY stand for?
T.R.Y means to transform and renew yourself.
Self.
And it's based off of the scripture, Romans 12:1 and 2, about being transformed by the renewing of your mind.
I'm
And
going to remember that. Romans what?
Romans 12, verses 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
And I the scripture is about being transformed by the renewing of your mind, and transformation. And when we were just talking about the mental health aspects of nursing, just that growth that you mentioned earlier about the growth of the opportunity, if you let nursing just take you where it needs to take you, you
Mhm.
have to deal with yourself in a lot of different ways. And that mindset shifts that happens as you grow, as you learn, as you evolve, as you have different roles in nursing, as you experience different leadership challenges and challenges and change
Yeah.
and all of those different types of things. It's that constant transformation. So the try, it means transform and renew yourself. And it's the name of my business, Try Again, Health and Fitness LLC, as well as the name of my book. And it helps
Mhm.
you on a 21-day journey. And you know how we are nurses, we're very systematic. So it's 3 weeks. The week one, you're gonna do some discovering of yourself, having some
Mhm.
self-awareness. And then week two, we're gonna make some decisions. We're gonna have SMART goals. And then after that, week three, you're ready to get to work, because I say in the book that transformation requires your active participation. So
Mhm.
a mindset change, nobody can change your mind for you.
Mhm.
You kind of got to be involved in that process of changing your mind and growth.
Exactly.
So that's what the book is about.
Right. Well, it is so funny because the mental health is I know what works for me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have never felt so much at peace in my life.
Mm,
But it has been a journey,
absolutely.
much, much longer journey than you would have thought, and my personal mental health is being very connected to my 2 best friends.
Mm-hmm.
We meet every day. We are spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
We keep each other grounded.
Mm-hmm.
We see the big goal. And we ask for the, guidance that we need.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all so whatever your mechanism of staying in that peaceful state,
Mm-hmm.
what it has shown me is it rolls over into every aspect of your life. Staying in that peaceful mindset. And God has sent me 2 wonderful dogs to
Mm-hmm.
tell me when it's time to get out of the chair. And I say, okay, but it's the mind. I needed that spiritual
Mm-hmm.
awakening
Mm-hmm.
to have control because I used to be the bear in the china shop or the
Mm-hmm.
bull.
The book.
Yeah, yeah, loud, and this is what we have to do to fix everything because I've been thinking about it nonstop. And what
Mm-hmm.
I've realized is like, you know what? You just turned off 3/4 of the people that could have helped you get there.
Mm-hmm.
So self-care tips. And I'm still struggling with this today because I work remotely. I work from home and I'm on a mission, right,
Mm-hmm.
to do what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Did I brush my teeth today? That's where I get at about 1 or 2 o'clock. Did I brush
Uh-huh.
my teeth?
Mm-hmm. Did
I
I
so
shower today? When's the last time
right.
I washed my hair?
And
Did I
what
drink any water?
and, and what day is it? So how do we ensure that we are caring for,
Mm-hmm.
what's the secret? Because I have yet to find it.
Well, you have to download my free ebook on www.nursedeck.com and not answer that question.
That's it, okay.
Questions because you have to participate, my dear.
So
But
now what was that again? Where do you want me to go?
www.drfitnurse.com.
Okay. First,
Drfitnurse.com.
and
Yes.
you can download it for free
Self-care
and they'll get you on
secrets
the way.
for the superwoman. Yes. And
Okay.
we're sisters. I know we look nothing alike, but
Uh-huh.
we're sisters, Jenny.
That's right.
Kindred spirits, kindred hearts.
Right.
And it's I'm gonna try to answer that question. It's kind of a hard question. I kind of touch on it in my book, but it's a journey for me too. So thank you for your transparency and your vulnerability because nobody arrives. It's just like with leadership. You don't arrive. You're always gonna learn. Once
Right.
you feel like you've arrived at anything, God throws you this. And I was telling my best friend yesterday because I had an experience, and I said, God is testing me. Said this experience was a distraction. And I say, always say, don't let distractions distract. And yesterday I got this distraction that came out of nowhere. And I'm like, God is testing me to keep me grounded and know that he's not done with me yet. So every time you feel like I got this together, I'm Miss Peace, I'm Miss Self-Care, and then you gain 10 pounds, you look back, you got some extra booty, and but what is going on? But self-care tips. Where I start is where you started. And I love your beautiful transparency about it's been a journey and it's been a little long one. You reminded me of the children of Israel. It could have been an 11-day journey, but it ended up being like I went the long route. There was a direct route that I could have taken, but I just went 40 years for an 11-day journey. But with self-care, I say that there's a difference between self-care routine and self-care practices. But where you start is with self-awareness. And that's where you started, Jenny. And you had to be aware of, okay, what's going on with me? And you started where I started with that spiritual aspect. I had to disconnect from things and people and experiences and work and to connect. So to connect this way and to connect this way, because I had to learn to connect with God and connect with myself and become self-aware. And really, my mentor, my mom always says this, and she's going to love this part and she's going to rewind it the podcast, because my mom always says, baby, you always running through the rose garden, but you never stop to smell the roses. And stopping to smell, can I smell them while I'm on the way? Like, why do I stop doing what I'm doing to smell them? And really, I know 2 speeds. I'm learning cruise control, but most of my life, it's been fast forward and stop. And I learned about self-care when I became self-aware when I had to. And that was in a season where I'm working 60. A lot of the people that I coach, they're like, I ain't got time for this. And I said, ain't nobody got time for it, but you got to make time for it if you want to live. So me being self-aware in the season where I was working 60 to 70 hours a week, I was launching a business. I was on a flight twice a month, going here, there, and everywhere. And I had a lot of responsibilities. I was laying on somebody's couch. So I recommend therapy, counseling, whatever you want to call it. I call it spiritual workouts. I don't like to be crazy, but lay down and get your spiritual workout on, girl. Talk to somebody. And she was like, Shannon, you have about I was telling her everything that I had going on. And she said, you have about 2,500 people at any point in time that need you, that could call you on your phone. Whether it's the people that you lead or it's people at business, people in you have so many people pulling on you. And in that season, it was like self-care or die. You know how they say such and such or bust? Self-care or die. And I had to really become self-aware and slow down long enough to smell those roses my mommy was talking about. And really say, Shannon, everything is not an emergency. Everything does not require your yes. Your no is a complete sentence. You are entitled to your no, and without explanation. No establishes boundaries, and no is therapeutic. And people on the other side of no will be okay. But I had to become self-aware and really understand what I needed in that season and convince myself that it was okay to fulfill that need. And now I'm to the point where I have a self-care routine and I have self-care practices. So I would love to live the Oprah life. And I imagine she gets massages and mani-pedis all the time and goes outside and does her recording and just gets whatever. It's somebody to cook for me and whatever to make me burn calories. I lay down and lose 10 pounds, whatever. I would love to do that. But my daily I have daily routine, and then I have practices that I do like monthly. So you mentioned hanging out with your girlfriends. So I got some girlfriends. I have the ones like yesterday when I was having a day, my girlfriends that will fight for me. They will go to jail for me just so I can be on podcasts and do media and stuff. They won't let me get my hands dirty, but I just call them and they'll catch a flight. So those kind of friends. So we have those real girl conversations, because it's not always Dr. Shannon Harrington in her cute little t-shirt. No, we have real stuff going on. So it's having those conversations with those people. But my daily routine is the 4 W's. And I mentioned this in my little ebook that you're going to download. It's called War Room, Workout, Worship, Work. And this is what I do every day. That's my routine. So every day of my life, I've been doing this since 2017. So War Room, if you've seen the movie, I know you know what that is. It's that intentional prayer time, that devotional, whatever you want to do to connect, disconnect, and connect, get your mind right. So I do that every morning. Working out. Sometimes I do, if you follow me on Instagram or whatever, you think I'm absolutely insane because my workouts are crazy. But I work out. Sometimes I do a walk. Sometimes I do HIIT training. Sometimes I do something live stream. Sometimes I'm in the gym. I just have to get my body moving, get my mind right. Worship, sometimes that's in the form of listening to some worship songs. Like to prepare for this interview, I was just dancing around listening to my little music or whatever, getting my mind, heart, and spirits clear. So I get into my little zone, and then I get to work. I don't work every day as an entrepreneur. I do, but I don't. But that's another story. But I have that. My definition of work is the work that pays me. But I always ask God to do something great in me and do something great through me that day. So I know that I have fulfilled my purpose. So that's my routine as far as self-care. And then self-care practices. I need a mani-pedi. I'm going to do that after this podcast. So that's why you will not see any nails. I'm trying not to talk with these hands that need manicuring. I get my little mani-pedi every 3 weeks. I get a massage. I'm on the schedule now. So I'll take my butt to the massage parlor and make time for it. I pay for it. So whether I go or not, they get my money. So I make myself go and get my massage. It's my reward for working out so much and all of that other type of stuff. I spend time with friends, things that don't cost me. I like sunsets. I don't know what it is about a good sunset, but that is just so soothing to my soul. Being out in nature, walking, getting some vitamin D, hence why I am 50. Anybody who's seen my photos, I don't look like my photos because I'm 10 shades darker because I've been getting all the vitamin D that the world can offer me. But those are things that I practice, but then I have my routine, things that I know my day is off if I wake up and I haven't had my war room time. It's like, you don't get the best of me if I don't first have my opportunity to get myself and get my mind into a space where I'm ready for you.
Exactly. Well, and I need to bring in, you were talking about the 2,500 people. And I remember when my daughters were little, I was working a full-time job. My husband lost his job. My 8 parents were aging. I was taking care of 2 full houses. And then I decided to go back to school and get my master's. And I look back on that and how did I do that? I have no idea how I did it. So, and I know that we have a ton of nurses who take on the world. So how are you able to balance that pursuit of constant education and making sure you're there for your
So, okay, so I'm saying like this. One of my mentors, so in that season when I learned that it was self-care or die, my boss's boss, we were all having a conversation, and we were having a conversation about work-life balance because working 70 hours a week, even though I was paid very well to do so, it was a lot. And she worked probably more than we did. And she said, there's no such thing as work-life balance. And I'm like, so what we supposed to do? Just kill ourselves at work? Like, what do you want us to do? And she says, I call it work-life integration. And she said, sometimes you're going to be at work and you're going to have to stop in the middle of a meeting and go and take care of your child, or go to the hospital to visit your mom or whatever. And sometimes you're going to be at your kid's softball game and you're going to get a work call that you have to step away and take. So once you get to a certain level in leadership, and I think that this is every level in nursing, God bless us. But once you get to a certain level in leadership and responsibility and accountability, it's like your life is not your own, but you have to choose to not have necessarily the balance, but to maintain the boundaries. So I got real good at the boundaries.
Well, I want to ask you about boundaries, because one of the things that I've seen over the couple of years is I do not have the same circle of people around me today that I did 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and there's been some pain associated with all of that. And I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of us who can relate to that.
Mhm.
And I guess I just went through the process over the last 2 years of saying,
Mhm.
this isn't new. You've had God put people in your life for this
Mhm.
period of time for a
Mhm.
reason, and now they are no longer here.
Mhm.
We just sped that process up very quickly over the
Expedite.
last. Yeah, we're just gonna speed this nonsense up, and that's kind of the. So I want to hear a little bit about that because I think that so much ties into our mental wellness because that pain.
Mhm.
I mean, we're talking, some of these people have grew up with me. I've
Mhm.
known them since I've been, 8 years old,
Mhm.
and that loss, that
Mhm.
grief that goes along with that, and
Mhm.
how we come out the other side from that.
Mhm.
I'm on a personal mission to help people not commit suicide. A personal mission. We are here together, and
Mhm.
when you're at your lowest, reach out.
Mhm.
So that mental health, I guess, where's my question in here? But
Mhm.
how
The
do we,
boundaries. You were asking about the boundaries.
yeah, it's it's okay to have some boundaries
You
because
have to. You have to. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but everything about what I've heard you talk about has been a journey of transformation and growth and elevation as you have grown, not just older, because older age does not mean wiser, does not equate to wisdom. Just because you're another year older doesn't mean you're the other year wiser.
Mhm.
And I was listening to what's his name? Um, Pastor John Maxwell.
That's what.
And he was talking about leadership, and I was listening to one of his leadership things, but he was talking about um, knowledge isn't, and we know how the saying is, knowledge is power. And he said knowledge is not power. He said applied knowledge and reflection is power, because what you can have a whole lot of information and a whole lot of knowledge, and but that doesn't mean that you're wise, because you have to apply what you know. And once you reflect and once you apply what you've learned, that means that you're powerful and that you're growing. And as I've listened to you, I've heard you talk about your journey of growth. And one of my other favorite quotes, I don't know who says this, is elevation requires separation. And I know that Steve Harvey says this, that everybody that comes with you can't go with you. And sometimes that means that you talked about you having people that you grew up with, people that came up with you, they can't always go to where God is taking you. They might not understand it. They may not, as you grow and you transform. And I think about the process of a butterfly, and I talk about that in my book, Try Again, that you go from, you think about it, rolling as an egg to crawling as a caterpillar to the chrysalis is still, and then the chrysalis breaks out and it becomes this beautiful butterfly. The mode of transportation, you rolling, crawling, standing, flying, the people that you were with, you trying to fly and people still rolling. If you trying to stand and people still crawling, or they trying to crawl and you trying to fly, it kind of throws things off.
Right.
So as you grow and as you evolve and as you become all that God has for you to become, it kind of separates you from people because they don't understand you. You don't talk the same language. You talked about your two girlfriends. You made me think about my pastor always talks about God had 12 disciples, but he had 3 ride or dies. It was like even Jesus had like a small crew. He had the 12, but it was his 3 over here. And I think that as you grow and evolve, some people can take that journey of growth and transformation with you, and some people get left behind because they no longer serve you. They serve the old you, and once you transform from an egg to a butterfly, you kind of need butterfly friends.
Right. It's truly amazing. It truly is because it's okay to say a prayer. I hope they join me soon,
Absolutely.
right? I
Yes.
I
No.
hope they have their own.
Right. You don't wish any hate on them, no beef or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But you have that boundary that you set to protect your peace, to protect your growth, and to protect the things that you've invested in. And that is you, the person that you are becoming. So you're those boundaries, it's not to be spiteful or anything. It's not like you're better than anybody, you're shining your nose up on somebody, but it's just you protecting yourself and your peace and acknowledging and being okay with your growth.
Mhm. Mhm. And I think that you can almost be trapped in trying to save those who are still rolling when you're trying to fly, you don't get off the ground. This is just, like, so cool, I can't stand it. I So, I have, I had a question and it filtered in my mind and it will come back to me, but it was a response to how do we move beyond COVID because of we are so divided and w the science has been divided and
Mhm,
politicized,
mhm,
and today we know so much more than we did a year ago. How do we interact with all clinicians to pull us together,
mhm,
regardless if you are uh, promoting vaccination, anti-vax, uh, the whole nine gambits? How are we going to pull ourselves together
mhm.
to get back on the right track?
I
That's a loaded question, I know, and I apologize, but I have this sense of urgency for
Yeah.
us to stop yelling at each other.
Mhm,
But how do we move forward and support one another as clinicians, regardless of what side you are on?
mhm. Yeah, loaded questions,
So
loaded responses. So, try to answer this as best as I can. I think that we have to start. I had a manager, and I used to say she was interesting, but I used to say that she led and had a heart. Um, she led with love.
mhm,
And I think that if we can get back to loving each other, not like all weird and funny, you got to be in love with everybody, but just the love factor of loving and accepting each other and trusting each other and knowing that nobody has all the answers. We are in the middle of unprecedented times where, as nurses and as type A, OCD, anal people, we want black and white responses. Okay, take the vaccine, don't take the vaccine. It's gonna kill me, it's not gonna kill me. Everybody should get it, nobody should get it. We just want yes or no. And I used to work for an organization and I said, we're building the plane and putting the engine on and the wings on while we're in mid-flight. And that's what we're doing right now in the middle of this pandemic. Nobody has the answers. We can be mad at Fauci, we can be mad at Biden, we can be mad at everybody, but it's not going to change the fact that the science is what's going to drive us, hate it or love it. But the science is what's going to drive us. Sometimes it's going to be political agendas, and I'm going to say period there because I ain't going down that road.
thank
But
you.
sometimes, Kirk, go back around.
Right.
But it's a lot of different things that can feed all of this. But if we get back to the common ground of leading and having those interactions that are founded and rooted in love and respect
Respect.
and trusting the process, knowing that nobody knows, but we're all in the same boat trying to figure it out. And I think another thing that has us all twisted up in the game is that we all crazy, that we don't like uncertainty.
Mhm.
And getting to a place of, my mentor says this to me, she'll be very proud and she'll rewind this part of the podcast, that once you get to the point where you're comfortable being uncomfortable and accepting a new normal, because that shift that we have to make to move past Rona 1.0, 2.0, 5.0, Delta, Gata, Lambda, Theta, whatever we have going on right now, in
Uh-huh.
order to move past that, we have to be in that sweet spot of uncertainty and just kind of surrender to the process and love each other and stop trying to chew everybody's head off.
Right, right. Well, and so here I remembered the question I was going to ask because I loved working as a nurse in the hospital and
Mhm,
had to leave because I couldn't take the quality of care I was seeing. And this was in the early 1990s.
mhm,
And I'm like, why are we putting in a pacemaker on a 94-year-old nursing home patient who doesn't even know where she's at?
mhm,
Right? Why are we putting the balloon pump in? Because I always thought the best nurses knew how to use all of the equipment that's available from a high-tech
mhm,
perspective, and it was fast-paced, and we're
mhm,
saving lives and
mhm,
taking numbers and, all of this stuff, and then
mhm,
when I got to see the patient underneath all the wires and tubes, I thought, "What are we doing?"
mhm,
Um, and so I moved over into the realm of corporate America,
mhm.
got into the insurance and the business side of
Yeah.
healthcare.
Mhm.
And let me tell you, it is not the same environment as being an ICU nurse.
Uh,
And it took me years to figure out
mhm.
how to stop getting beaten up.
Oh yeah.
But one of the
Your
things
heart
that,
was too big. You cared too much. You
yeah,
cared.
well, so then we get into the human resources
Mhm.
and personal development, and they would train us to these different things.
Yeah.
And the first one was the disc profile.
Uh-huh.
And so I bought it hook, line, and sinker. And I'm a big old check mark. I'm a bull coming in the china shop. I dip down here, and that's my ICU nurse.
Uh-huh.
I answered the questions like an ICU nurse would.
Uh-huh.
Then I said, okay, well, now that we've labeled each other sufficiently, what do we do with that? And there was nobody who had an answer. And so I'm like, and then so I kind of follow all this stuff that's happening in personal development within human resources. And I'm like, I think human resources are trying to be little tiny psychiatrists without the training. And I would love to hear your perspective because so much of what we've been taught over the years is just, no, that's not right.
Mhm. Yeah, I get it. And
You know
I
what I mean?
yeah. The last organization I was a part of, I have never done so many personality, behavioral mindset tests in my entire life. But it helped me. All of them added to my life in a different way. I've done the disc. I don't remember what I was. I'm not a D. I think I'm an ISD, probably equally
Yeah,
something
yeah.
crazy like that. But I've done the disc. The one that gave me the most. This is not an advertisement. The one that got the most out of doing 15,000 of them was the 5 dynamics, and it talked about like your behavior and why. It kind of gave me a rationale. The summary made me cry and mad all at the same time.
Fine.
So you do this little profile thing and it spits out like 5 to 10 pages of information, and I'm like, who wrote this? They know me. They know me. Has somebody been following me? Is Ashton Kutcher punking me? So I just felt like so found out. And the best thing that my organization had us do with those things was not just to take it, but as a leader, it helped me to become more self-aware and to understand as a leader how I was perceived and received by my team. Because John Maxwell says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So if you can influence people, you have to relate to them, you have to connect to them, you have to understand them. And leadership is not about you. So you have to understand yourself in order to be a good leader, but a good leader understands your team. So I found it valuable to understand how crazy Dr. Shannon is, but I also wanted my team to take it, because having that understanding of It was one article I read about employee love languages. I read Gary Chapman's love languages to become the best girlfriend in the world, but also the employee love languages, understanding how to understand people. So sitting in that seat of trying to understand them before I try to be understood. So saying, okay, what does my team need from me? And my last job, I had 22 people, 22 different personalities. And I'm like, oh Lord. But I had to speak in so many different love languages. But once I mastered that, I was able to lead them and support them. So I feel like the best thing that I could have ever done with those personality tests was to understand myself and to understand how I was being perceived and received by my team, but also to kind of flip it and have them take it, because it was another step in my understanding and enlightening me to understand what they needed from me. Because as a leader, even as a teacher, when I used to be in the clinical, and you'll laugh at this story, I had to take 8 students, and I had I'm gonna stand beside you every step of the way because I know you're gonna kill somebody today. Somebody like, okay, she could run the ICU. So I got 8 students. And I got one that's gonna kill somebody today, one that ain't had no sleep, one that's whatever. It's like everybody, and I said, y'all gonna think I got bipolar. So when we go in this clinical, I'm gonna be 50 different. I'm gonna eat you. So the eat or be. I'm gonna eat every last one of you to save. We all gonna walk out of here alive, and so all of our patients are gonna be alive when we leave here in 8 hours. So don't play with me. But I really had to be what my student needed. And in leadership, you have to be what your team needs. And that means personalizing the experience for each person that you're going to be working with.
Right. Well, it's so funny because I've been in leadership positions where I got this kind of a misfit team, and I'm
That is a great, I love that. I'm going to write that down.
like the misfit
Yeah.
toys or whatever from the show.
Yes.
But and so here I am, and I'm building all this momentum to really lift them up,
Absolutely.
identify their strengths, and I'm going to support all of them. And I'm doing all of this work, and my boss pulls me aside
Uh-huh.
and says, I gave you this team because they all need to go. And I I stood there, and I think it was an hour later that I was able to breathe again, you know? And I went home and I thought, if that what about my job interview gave her the idea that I was going to be the best axeman she could hire? There was nothing in that job interview that said I'm going to. So
Oh
anyway, and I'm just starting this job, so
God.
the and I am not a fan of corporate America.
Uh-huh.
Just going to throw that out there. Um,
Hot.
because because what I have experienced, and I talk to a lot of the C-suite of employer groups where they don't care about their employees. They just don't care about them. And I know from my world experience that if you ask the employees, they don't trust their employer in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to reel back and go, what do you do in a world where the powers that be don't care about the ants
Mm-hmm.
and the ants don't trust the powers of be?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, God, exactly what do you want me to do in this scenario?
Mm-hmm.
That's why leadership is so
Mm-hmm.
stinking hard, and maybe why we don't have enough true leaders
Mm-hmm.
today, because I think
That's
what
good.
you said earlier was the leaders must care for the flock,
Mm-hmm.
and that's your primary goal. And
Absolutely.
you have to go in knowing that the powers that be
Mm-hmm.
may not want you to take care of your flock,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to have to decide what's the right thing to do. And that's a really hard world to live in.
It
And
is.
I
It is. And I think that that's probably 95% of organizations.
Right.
Sad but true. There's some great organizations out there, but somebody I know I might get an email about this, but I don't know of a lot of them. Unfortunately, and it's so funny when you were saying that story. I was just talking to one of my girlfriends, and every job, she's a nurse. She's working on her doctorate, and she is the bomb.com. She's just extraordinary. Been in the Navy, done this and that, she's
Mhm.
an entrepreneur, she's a nurse administrator, nurse educator, everything, all the things. She's all the
Right.
things. And every job she's ever had, she's been called the cleaner.
The
So it sounds like
cleaner.
you were the cleaner. You were hired to be the cleaner. And I've been a cleaner
Ah,
once or twice in my life, but it's like, okay, so how does this work? I'm trying to be me. And to, like you said, what did they pick out of my interview that makes them think that I was just going to chop people's head off? And I just wanted to do that as my position. But how do I work with these people and try to invoke some kind of change and growth in them? But also, I have the ulterior motive of making sure that they fail. Like, my heart wants them to be successful. The nurse in me, my training, my leadership, my morals, my values, my ethics say help them to get up and stop
to
being on the
succeed.
misfit team, graduate from the misfits. But the goal, I was hired to kill them. I was hired to eat them. You were hired to eat them. You was just hired to eat them.
Well, and I've also been in this scenario where you've got a dynamic individual who is so good, and you know that there's no place for her to grow in the organization as
Absolutely.
a leader.
Mhm.
And when she comes to you in her, for me, it was a her, it could be a him, that
Mhm.
comes to you with their frustration.
Mhm.
Um, and I was listening to her story. I just looked at her and I said, you are so phenomenal
Mhm.
that it may be time to take your little butterfly butt out of here
Mhm. I love that.
and go to where, and because there's nothing that I can do for you here. And I am so
Abs-
absolutely pleased that
Absolutely.
you are seeing within yourself the need to
Absolutely.
spread your wings. Leadership is stinking hard. That's all I'm saying.
It is. It is. And it's not about you. It's like,
No,
have to lead with your people in mind. And I love that story that you just shared, because I've sat in that seat and had that conversation. I want to be selfish, just keep you all here for me, but I can't help. I've taken you as far as I can take you, and the organization will fail you because there is no place for you to grow. Like, you are in your chrysalis, ready to bust out and fly, and we don't have nowhere for your wings to go.
right. And it's real. And what a shame. I mean, can we do anything to change that?
Uh, I think that every organization, I think that I have always had some amount of loyalty to my employers, which I should, and value the experience. But I always say that I am who I am and where I am because I've taken advantage of opportunities afforded me. And at
Hmm.
the beginning of our conversation, we talked about the many different places and that nursing will take you, but only if you allow them to. And sometimes
Hmm.
it's not taking you. My mom, I love her, and she's gonna be mad at me for this, but I love you, mom, kisses. But my mom is the only person that I know that, I think she had two jobs in her life. She retired from her second job after working there for 41 years.
Hmm.
That is not the current millennial modern day narrative.
No, no.
You might stay at a job. The longest you might stay there is 20 years. 41 years, people not being that committed. But my
No.
mom was committed to that job. She absolutely loved it and did great things there. But sometimes you have to take advantage of different opportunities, and those opportunities take you to different organizations.
Hmm.
And you just have to be willing to take that and not feel like, oh, I've been here for 5 years, I'm vested, and I can get my this, I can draw this, and I'm here, da, da, da. But you have to be willing to walk into those doors that are open for you. And sometimes
Right.
those doors are at different locations.
Right. I once was at a job interview and my resume is very I mean, I've been around the block in a good way. And the person who was interviewing me said, "Well, my, you looks like you've really bounced around quite a bit as a negative." And I said, "That's
Mhm.
because I'm always wanting to learn the next piece of the puzzle.
Mhm.
And it takes me sometimes a year to 2 years to master it, and then I wanna move
Mhm.
because I have to learn the
Mhm.
next piece."
Mhm.
And that's how I kinda managed my career.
Mm.
Money was a factor because I liked to buy my kids shoes on occasion, but, you know, the real the driver.
Stuff are nice.
Right, but
Eating.
the real driver was that constant drive to
Yes,
learn.
I love
And you mentioned the nursing process early on in the beginning of the
it.
conversation,
Mhm.
and I remember when project management
Mhm.
became the big deal, and we brought in industrial engineers
Yeah.
to be our PMs to
Uh-huh.
change the organization.
Mhm.
I'm sitting there being trained by the guy, like, who invented project management.
Mhm.
I'm looking at it and I'm like, "This is the nursing process."
Yes. Yes. The nursing process is, once we learn, if you really think about it, nursing process applies to what you do right now in your business. It applies to what I do in my business. It's how I coach people who go through my services. So, hey, plot twist, that's what you're going to get. But it's how I run my business. It's how I did nursing science. It just makes sense for the world. So everybody needs to learn nursing process. You always have to start with an assessment. You have that assess, and you have the diagnosis, and then we added the cute little outcomes identification. Then you make a plan. Then you have to execute or implement. Then you evaluate. You start it all over
All
again.
over again.
But everything starts with an assessment. Everything ends with an evaluation. That's how we do everything.
Right. Well, and so what's interesting to me over the years of going into the business side of things, you're
Mhm.
working with a lot of people with a variety of backgrounds.
Mhm.
And then if the nurse speaks, I know that they're in their mind, they put me in a little white uniform with a little white hat.
Absolutely. The
And
Florence
I'm
Nightingale.
and
You're
and
flowing.
I'm like, "Oh, you have no idea we
Right.
invented your world.
Yes,
We were just quiet about it."
that's good.
And when I did catastrophic case management, and this is back in the 90s, we did everything.
Mhm.
We built and created, how to search for the best care possible and
Mhm.
at the very lowest cost. I mean, we were negotiating rates, we were up against doing all this stuff, and
Mhm.
flip forward 30 years,
Mhm.
and it has all been broken out, and men have created business models. Business models, maybe it shouldn't be men. Business entities
Uh-huh.
have pulled apart that what case managers and nurses
Mhm.
created 30 years ago, and
Mhm.
they're making gazillion, gabillion dollars off of it.
Absolutely.
And I'm like,
Mm.
this is nothing new, people. We nurses were doing this 30 years ago. We just didn't tell anybody.
We kind of applied it to saving lives, not
Right,
to building businesses.
right. Well, and we applied it to, right now we are emerging into a new world. I like to think that we're in the process of building a new world.
Mhm.
And oh, there's my daughter.
Mhm.
Uh, but when I think about health, I'm thinking about a patient's physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial health.
Mhm.
It's all of those key components that,
Mhm.
if I don't have enough money to keep the lights on, I'm not going to be able to do anybody good.
Mhm.
So it's that financial component is a part of it as well. I
Mhm.
have to go back here because we got a little off track, but that's okay. That's okay. Um,
A detour.
so we have the advice for nurses. I know that we have this nurse deck, and I
Mhm.
know that the nurse deck folks are running like so hard and
Yes.
so fast.
Yes.
Um, but what is it that NurseDeck can do to kind of keep this momentum going and
Mhm.
sharing? Because right now we're really just kind of starting out, and
Mhm.
everybody's just kind of flying by the seat of their pants and getting it done, which is what
Yeah.
nurses do.
Right.
But how can we affect the lives of more nurses and help protect more nurses and build this community that is more about our own individual self care
Mhm.
and our care of each other?
Mhm.
And we'll let the other organizations still be out there, but we still need to build this community of we're all in this together. If you're a nurse, you're here,
Mhm.
and you're accepted and loved.
Absolutely. And I think that my answer is rooted in your question. And
Okay.
I say that because the key word to that question was community. And I think that as we've talked about us eating each other, eat or be eaten, I think that a sense of community is very much needed. We need love right
All
now.
right. Yeah, we need love.
Oh, we need love. We need some hugs. Oh, we need to give virtual hugs for everybody.
Ready.
But we need love and we need understanding and we need community. And I think that Nurse Deck, I have read several of the articles and they touch on, I love the mental wellness tab, but it talks about the conversations about stress management, about how to handle burnout and fatigue. And those are high ticket items right now. They were pre
Mhm.
COVID, but COVID has totally
Yep.
ignited those conversations. But they have conversations on Nurse Deck about the self awareness piece and how to cope with that. And I think that building community, and I love how they uplift with the Nurse of the Week and giving nurses a voice. We have a voice at work, but we don't always have a voice where it matters. Like from the bedside to the
Mhm.
boardroom, there isn't always that seamless conversation or even understanding that your voice is just as valuable at the bedside as it is in the boardroom. And I
Mhm.
think as we foster that sense of community, of reaching out and uplifting each other, and I'm hoping that there will be some events and virtual probably right now and virtual hugs, but online education. But I hope that there are events and I hope that there are continuing to work on elevating nurses, to giving nurses a voice, to giving nurses a place to come for that community and for that love and for that collaboration.
Right, right. I know that I'm getting old, and I hope that I'm around to see the new world that nurses have.
Mhm.
I would like, because I still feel like if I'm running neck and neck with a physician or a businessman or an investor or a banker or whatever, everyone in the room could name a famous doctor, but not a single one of them could name a famous nurse. And that's except for Flo. And we all love Flo, right?
Yeah.
But we need to have nurses in every corner of
Mhm.
every piece of this world.
Mhm.
And if we build a foundation, you know what I would love? I would absolutely love to create a process where if you're going to touch other humans
Mhm.
in any way, shape, or form, you must become a nurse first.
Mhm.
And then from that basis, now you can branch off into being a physician,
Mhm.
a radiologist, the different treks and roads.
Mhm.
But if we can build a foundation for anyone who is interacting with humans,
Mhm.
and I think nursing does a phenomenal
Mhm.
job of that because
Mhm.
we're always the warrior that responds to the crisis
Mhm.
and we figure it out as we go.
Absolutely.
And that's how we're trained.
Yeah.
So
Do
I just
it.
I really want to I really want to thank you for your time and energy. I've kept you a little bit longer than we should,
You're
but I
fine.
know the folks at Nurse Deck will take good care of us. Um, so I just want to close with for all of our beautiful nurses, consider joining Nurse Deck at NURSEDECK.com. It's a global community where you will find guidance, and career resources and hear real life experiences from us old timers. And it's all sprinkled with a healthy dose of humor. So come join us on Nurse Deck. Thank you. I appreciate your time so very, very much.
You are very welcome. I have thoroughly enjoyed this interview. So thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Yes, and I will see you around.
Yes, you will.
Okay. You take care. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.